Welcome to BagTalk, presented by Best Buy today. We got a new microphone. I don't know if there's a big difference in sound or not. I kind of spoke into it a little bit. Wanted to figure it out, but yeah, new microphone. We got another one coming tomorrow via Amazon. So yeah, we got upgrades. We can hopefully start getting guests on with the microphones we have now. So that's the first. Just want to get that off my chest. I got the microphone for you people to make the podcast sound a little more professional, to act like I know what I'm doing. We had a really wild week of football this week between the 4 playoff games and the college football national championship. One of the bigger upsets in the last couple years happened on Saturday night when Baltimore lost to Tennessee at home by a score of 28-12. The Titans really just imposed their will on the Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry just seems like the most impressive running back I've ever seen, just from a physical standpoint. 6'3", 250 pounds, runs a 4.5 40, and the colder it gets, the better he gets. Tractorcito, he has just been absolutely phenomenal these playoffs. First NFL player to ever run for 180 yards in 3 straight games. 2 of those have been playoff games against probably the 2 teams that people thought were going to get to the Super Bowl, in the Patriots and the Ravens. And then ran for almost 200 yards against the Texans in the last week of the season. Lamar Jackson, once again, second straight year, just looks bad in the playoffs. I don't think it's his fault. I just think there's an aspect of this is something he's going to have to overcome. I mean, Peyton Manning struggled in the playoffs his first few years in the NFL, so it's definitely not just a Lamar Jackson running quarterback thing, at least through 2 years. If Andy Dalton had a better second playoff game than Lamar Jackson did. So if I've jokingly called him Lamar Dalton because he still has, through 2 years, 2 playoff appearances, he has yet to win a playoff game, despite him playing 2 home playoff games, which Dalton did not play in until it was his 3rd or 4th year, and they played San Diego. So it's just one of those things you have to temper expectations for the year. For a quarterback that is young, still kind of learning how to be a thrower, I think he'll eventually develop beyond the point of them forcing him to throw he'll be able to get to the point where he can throw the ball well enough where you can no longer make him do that and win games. I think there is something to be said, though, for how quickly the Ravens went away from their attack. The Titans scored on the first drive, went right down the field, long touchdown pass. And the Ravens turned away from running the ball. They threw the ball a lot more often than they regularly did. Some of that probably has to do with Mark Ingram being hurt, I'm sure. But there's just, I don't know. It's tough to judge the Ravens on this year because of how really it's a year that you wish could have ended in a playoff game against the 49ers for the Super Bowl. At least me personally, I would have wished that. That would have been awesome. Another rematch of that Super Bowl from 2012. It was an instant classic. But we saw the defense was susceptible to getting shredded. And the offense couldn't get it done against the Titans defense that also shut down Tom Brady and the Patriots. The first game of that day had been the 49ers absolutely embarrassing the Minnesota Vikings. The 49ers were one big play away from keeping the Vikings out of the end zone. I mean, the only touchdown the Vikings scored was a play where the defensive back fell down going for the ball, and Stephon Diggs ran it in for a score early. They had a play where they ran 14 plays, ran the ball every play, and scored a touchdown. This 49ers team, much like kind of the Titans, has the ability to just beat the will out of you with the run game. They use Raheem Mostert. They use Matt Breida. They use Jeff Wilson. And then once you let everybody in the box, they can just run play action, drop back, throw it to Deebo Samuel or Emmanuel Sanders or George Kittle. It's one of the harder offenses to stop, and you have a great offensive mastermind in Kyle Shanahan behind it, a guy that has proven that he can take his offenses to a Super Bowl when he was with the Falcons, a guy whose whose father won 2 Super Bowls with the Broncos. So there's obviously that pedigree there that he has that I think was one of the reasons the 49ers hired him. It's a testament to John Lynch building a fantastic team there with no real experience. A lot of people did not think that would happen. They thought it was a bad, weird hire, that the 49ers had screwed themselves. But as it turns out, John Lynch knew what he was doing. He drafted a very good defense. He traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he trusted Kyle Shanahan to build an offense that could get the team to this level. And now the San Francisco 49ers are back in the NFC Championship for the first time since 2013. Maybe the craziest game of the week was the Houston-Kansas City game, one of the craziest games I've ever seen. I was working, so I was watching the game kind of while working, and I looked up, and Houston went down the field and scored their first drive. And then the next Kansas City drive, or no. So Houston went down and scored. Kansas City went 3 and out. Houston got the ball back, and Houston punted, and Tyreek Hill muffs the punt. So Houston gets the ball again. It's all of a sudden it's 14-0 really early in the game. Houston recovers a kickoff fumble, and Houston blocks a punt. Yeah, Houston blocks a punt's what had happened. And they scored again, and then 4th and 1, they kick a field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 1, despite them being able to move the ball at will early in that game. So it's 24-0. One of my coworkers at the 07 turns to me and says, "I can't believe that's going to be 2 AFC South teams playing for the AFC Championship after just people saying that division sucked." And I turned to him and I said, "Well, this game's not over. The Chiefs' offense is incredible, and they've kind of shot themselves in the foot. I wouldn't say this game's over." And as I say that, Mecole Hardman has a big return. The Chiefs score quick. The Chiefs score quick a couple more times. And it's 28. The Chiefs were down 24-0 at the end right at the beginning of the second quarter, and they were up 28-24 at halftime. It was incredible. I've never seen a game flip on its head like that, and that shows the value of special teams, where the Texans scored 2 touchdowns on special teams, and the Chiefs had special teams really responsible for 2 touchdowns of their own in that game. And then the second half happens, and the Chiefs just run away with it. The Chiefs scored 41 unanswered points before the Texans were able to get a touchdown to cut it to 10. And then the Chiefs scored 10 more points. The Chiefs went on a 51-7 run after the first play of the second quarter. It's incredible. I think it's time to start the discussion about, is Pat Mahomes the most gifted quarterback ever? Because he just tore up a Texans defense that wasn't a very good defense. But it wasn't Pat Mahomes' fault that they were down 24-0. The way he sees the field, the way he moves in the pocket, he's mobile enough that's a big part of his game. He obviously has probably one of the best arms ever. Watching him throw the ball and kind of sidearm it around a defensive lineman jumping in the air, it's incredible. I've never had more fun watching an NFL quarterback than I have had watching Pat Mahomes. See, I think the Chiefs are red hot right now. I think this is Andy Reid's best shot he's ever had at winning a Super Bowl. I hope he gets there. He's probably the best coach at least to never win one. I think it'd be great to see Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Kind of that changing of the guard from as all these old quarterbacks like Brady, Eli Manning, Roethlisberger, Rivers, Breeze, as all those guys are kind of struggled and phased out this year. Now we have, Rodgers is in that group too. Now we have Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes, Jimmy G, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and those sort of guys that are coming in, the kind of the new young quarterbacks that are becoming the stars of the team, stars of the NFL. A little bit of a changing of the guard, which has been very pleasing to the eyes, and also just having good football, because there was a time where people were worried about what the future of the NFL will be once all these great quarterbacks retired. But here it is. The last game was actually the game I watched the least of. It was the Packers-Seahawks game. Packers win 28-23. The big part of this game was the first down ruling at towards the end of the game, where Jimmy Graham caught the ball and it looked like, and he was short of the yellow line on the TV. He was short of the yellow line on the TV by about a yard. But as they tell you every single game, the yellow line is not an official line. And if you zoom out from where he is on the yellow line, you can see the yellow line. You zoom out, you see that the yellow line is on the other side of the yard marker from where the actual first down line is. So there's about a half a yard difference between the first down line and the actual line on the TV. And when you put the line going from where the marker is, he's very clearly across it. And also it's one of those things where you had to have, they ruled it a first down the field, so you had to have indisputable evidence of it being a first down, of it not being a first down. So that brings us, the Packers beat the Seahawks 28-23, and that sets up the championship weekend. Green Bay, for the second time this year, will go to San Francisco to play the 49ers. That game will be at 6:40 on Sunday. And then the day game will be the Chiefs playing the Titans at 3 o'clock. Titans in Kansas City to play the Chiefs. And all four of these teams have played, these games have already been played this year. And I think one comes into play and one really doesn't. Start with the 49ers game. The 49ers are 7.5-point favorites. The over-under is 46. The weather in San Francisco that night will be 61 degrees and overcast. It'll be a night game, so it's really kind of perfect weather, honestly, in San Francisco. When these two teams played earlier this year, the Packers went to San Francisco on Sunday night, and they got their teeth kicked in. They lost 37-8. Aaron Rodgers was 20 for 33, 104 yards and a touchdown. Also had a fumble. And the 49ers just did anything they wanted to at will. They ran the ball. They threw the ball. Jimmy G had a great game. And I think it's going to be more of that this time around. I think Aaron Rodgers can be a wily veteran all he wants. But at the same time, he's no longer the athletic guy. He's not young enough really to sit in the pocket and dodge around until he can find Davante Adams for a deep ball. Because that's not going to happen this week, because Davante Adams is going to have Richard Sherman on him. And instead of dodging around from cheap shot Jadeveon Clowney and whoever else the Seahawks have, he's got Dee Ford, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa chasing after him. So, yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to get really exposed. I think he's going to have another bad game. I think the 49ers are going to roll the Packers. I think they're too much. The Packers' defense is susceptible to the run. The 49ers just have those three running backs. They just take the life out of you. Jimmy G's going to find a couple big plays through the air. And I like the Packers to roll in this one, or I like the 49ers to roll in this one. I'll take the 49ers 7.5 and also take the over 46. I think the 49ers are going to put up points on the Packers. And I'm sure Aaron Rodgers will have maybe a touchdown. Aaron Jones will probably run for a touchdown. So I think it's going to be about 31-14. No, 35-14. I think it's probably going to be the score. That'd be my best guess. In the AFC, we have a really intriguing matchup between Kansas City and Tennessee. This year, they already played this year. Tennessee beat Kansas City 35-32 in Nashville. That was Patrick